Now, Pokemon cards have a unique issue that they are dealing with, and it's a problem that can affect many collectors and investors in the medium to long term if left unchecked for a long time. So the TCG is obviously pumping with new interesting sets, and over the last 2 years, we've had an awesome time with the hobby. Though we have just had the new Team Rocket set announced, which has brought upon an incredible amount of hype. And of course, last year, Pokemon released arguably one of their most incredible sets of all time with Pokemon 151. Now, irrespective if you love or hate 151, there's one thing that no one can really argue with, and that is that Pokemon 151 reignited the Pokemon TCG audience like nothing else and re-engaged millions of fans who slowly lost interest during the COVID boom. Now, this was a genius move by Pokemon, right? Because as a whole new TCG audience came in during 2020, and then Pokemon nurtured this market and then they didn't let it slip through their fingers. And I've always been of the belief that Pokemon 151 was released as a way to ensure that those fans that came back during that era are now locked in. You know, 151 was birthed as a way to appeal to one of their strongest audiences. And not only was it appealing to nostalgia, but a lot of the generation who grew up with 151 also now have adult money. So, you know, it's targeting an audience with disposable income. It's not kids asking their parents for Pokemon cards. 151 was strategically positioned to appeal to the millennial audience who have vivid memories of the original 151. Now guys, as a lot of you who watch my channel know, you guys probably know that my career is in marketing and video production, right? And I've worked with so many different brands and I've learned skills in marketing, which has given me a little bit of a unique aspect to Pokemon collecting and investing. I want to discuss a marketing concept that I believe every collector and investor should be aware of. Okay, so the concept I want to explain to you is known as the marketing funnel. Now guys, don't worry, I'm not gonna bore you with the details. There's a lot of different ways to explain this, right? Though I'm gonna try explain this in the most simple way I can. And I wanna give you a very simplified version of a marketing funnel. So in marketing, whenever we're creating a marketing campaign, there are obviously different stages of audiences that you market to, right? Not everyone you market to is ready to buy. Sometimes you need to build an audience. Though after a while, we can kind of assume that it will translate into an actionable result, such as a sale. Okay, so at the top of the funnel, it's also known as the awareness phase, right? And then it starts trickling down into the consideration phase, which is pretty much the part of the funnel where the individual is considering making a purchasing decision. Now, after this comes the decision phase, which essentially is the product or the service being utilized or purchased. Now guys, the final part is the most important aspect of all this, and this is known as the retention part of the funnel. The retention part of the funnel is where you build loyalty. It's essentially the final ingredient to make a person re-engage within a funnel. It's pretty much a long cycle to keep consumers always buying products and services. So obviously when a sale is done, you want to ensure that there's a level of loyalty. So this is when you begin re-engaging the audience after the sale. Now guys, we are always being marketed to, right? And billions of dollars are spent every year from corporations to pull us into these funnels. And once we've been placed inside these funnels, corporations don't like us leaving the funnel, so they're constantly trying to re-engage us to pull us back into the funnel, pretty much leaving us in a never-ending loop of consumption, right? And this is what modern consumerism is built upon. Now, to add a little bit of insult to injury, corporations all across the world are hiring the smartest and the most skilled people who work in marketing and purchasing psychology to research ways to keep us constantly engaged, ensuring that we eventually spend our money on their products or their services. Pokemon are masters at using the final section of the funnel, and they know how to re-engage customers better than any brand or business I have ever seen. And we have all been re-engaged from Pokemon's genius marketing, and I'm going to explain how we have in just a moment. Also guys, if you are enjoying the content, feel free to give it a like. Supposedly it really helps the algorithm, and also feel free to subscribe. I cover a lot of topics relating to Pokemon investing and Pokemon collecting, so feel free to join the channel if these topics interest you. So moving back to the topic of re-engaging fans, right? Take a look at history. You loved Pokemon Gold back in the 90s? Well, guess what? Pokemon Heart Gold is here for you in 2009. Oh, wait. You loved Pokemon Ruby in 2002? Don't worry, we've got Pokemon Omega Ruby right here in 2014. Oh, wait. You love the Kalos region on your 3DS? Don't worry, Pokemon Legends ZA is on the way in 2025. Get ready to re-experience Kalos. Now, to Pokemon's credibility, this is a genius level marketing strategy that targets the emotional memories of target audiences and pulls them back within their beloved franchise. A lot of us have shared experiences of Pokemon games as kids, and it's like a universal love that we all share for Pokemon games. So when they time these re-releases of older games, it lets new fans experience the games while bringing back older generations back into the franchise. I'm actually now seeing this spill into the TCG, and it can become a little bit problematic, and it also is a little bit of an issue that stifles innovation, right? So the TCG needs to focus on the new, and the reason why the Sword and Shield generation was so great was because it introduced new concepts that fans loved. I mean, I loved Sword and Shield because it actually pushed itself with something new. We had alternate arts that truly reshaped the TCG and made Pokemon cards become iconic once again. Pokemon reigned kings again because they pushed the boundaries. Now, as we enter this new era, we have a little bit of a problem, and it seems to become increasingly evident. Pokemon seems not that confident with the new that they are offering, and they are relying heavily on nostalgia to re-engage fans. So 151 was a clear example of this, and I suppose we could say that it was a one-off. However, after 151 was released, now fans are asking for a Pokemon 251 and a Pokemon 351, and fans keep asking for more of the same. Now, with 151 being seen as old news, Pokemon has just announced a Team Rocket set, which again has caused an incredible amount of hype with fans. Now, it's not that this is such a bad thing, though the problem comes if it maintains for a very long time, because we can just be left with a stale TCG that just focuses on reigniting old flames rather than creating new ones. But it should be said that it's not just Pokemon that does this, right? This retention-based strategy plagues us in our modern world. It's an issue that we cannot seem to escape. Retention-based nostalgia baiting tactics are so strong that they have literally killed ambition with creative endeavors. This is why during the 2010s, we were plagued with hundreds of superhero movies, and we rarely got new movies with new ideas and concepts. All the biggest box office hits were superhero movies. And now it's kind of the same reason why we have hundreds of Disney live action movies, and it's the reason why we're in this remake era of gaming. It's literally the killer of innovation. Instead of focusing on new games, new storylines, new movies, or new TCGs, companies just find it easier and cheaper and more successful to draw into established concepts. I mean, it's super simple, right? It's effective and people enjoy it. So it seems like it's a literal win-win without any drawbacks. Though, without innovation and companies pushing the boundaries, we are left with a life of endlessly recycling content. But when we don't push the boundaries, we may never have the chance to experience something magical. And this is why innovation and focusing on the new is so incredibly important. Now, if you guys have ever seen the movie The Godfather, which is one of the best movies of all time, right? That movie was never meant to come out. The director, Francis Ford Coppola, had to literally fight everyone to ensure his vision was able to be met. The studio demanded that he cut The Godfather to be like a 2-hour movie instead of the 3-hour that they wanted. They wanted to fit the movie within the constructs of what the studio believed would sell. Though, Francis Ford Coppola held his ground. Francis pleaded that the movie would not be released if it was not 3 hours long, and demanded that the poster stay with its original intent of being the iconic black and white poster that we all know today. Everything about The Godfather was new to the world of cinema. The movie broke every rule. Instead of focusing on what worked before, The Godfather showed you what is possible when pushing and breaking the boundaries. Coppola fought for the artistry. He fought for the belief in his work, and lo and behold, Godfather Part 1 and Part 2 are considered two of the greatest masterpieces in cinema history, and this wouldn't have happened if they didn't fight to break the paradigm of what corporations and studios pleaded was right. So I believe Pokemon's TCG needs to focus on this approach as well. If Pokemon only focused on the old sets, we would have never had alternate arts or full arts. It's because they had to innovate and they allowed the new to take place, and it's why we still have endless room for innovation and growth. This is so important with every aspect of life. Like even with my own channel, right? I actually never look at what other creators are doing because I don't want to create like rehashed content. I focus on bringing my own unique spin to give my audience a new and fresh perspective, which hopefully you guys enjoy. You guys see there's like so many ways that Pokemon could bring in new fans and do new things. Like one cool idea would be like to do like a regional only set, right? A TCG expansion that only included regional forms, or maybe like a water themed set or an electric themed only set. There's endless possibilities for them to expand upon, and focusing on nostalgia is incredibly tempting as it's literally a golden ticket to success, though relying on these older sets to pump demand can only work for such a long time. New experimental concepts would be great and allow the TCG to have a breath of fresh air, because I do truly believe that collecting and the collecting landscape in general has changed, and more collectors want to learn and have new things come to life. I mean, guys, even look how chase cards have changed. We have collectors loving Iron Crown and Raging Bolt, and even a Magikarp illustration rare has become one of the hottest cards of Scarlet and Violet. And I believe this is because the collectors want the new. Now guys, with all that being said, Pokemon has shown us some incredible innovations within their TCG, and that all comes down to their artworks. The artworks of Scarlet and Violet have really broken the boundaries and shown what's possible for TCGs. And it really does make you wonder, what are the top 10 best artworks within the Scarlet and Violet era? Well, I uncover that question in this video right here. I go over the top 10 Scarlet and Violet artworks, and I do a deep dive into the Scarlet and Violet era, and then I showcase the best illustration rares and special illustration rares. If you're a fan of artworks, click that video guys, and I'll see you there.